All right, well, welcome everybody. It's 7:01, so I want to respect your time and just say thank you all for being here tonight. We have had just a great response to this class so far. Just as an FYI, more people showed up for the second class than came for the first class. So that just says we're doing something right and you guys are enjoying this as much as we are. So thank you all for being here. Let's start with an opening prayer, as we always do, just to get us grounded and out of our headspace and into our heart. So I invite you to take a breath, get comfortable where you are. Mother, Father, God, we thank you for this evening, this time of connection, this time of spiritual community, this chance to come together to open our minds and our hearts, to learn from this great literary work, to examine what we've learned, what we've been told, what we've agreed to, and what we are willing to examine and re-agree to in the future, or make new agreements for the betterment of ourselves, our soul's journey, for our families, friends, and the world. So we say thank you for your divine presence, your divine wisdom as we go through this process. And we give thanks for each and every one of the instructors and the participants, the congregations that came together to make this happen. And we say thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Reverend Don Barton. I'm the Associate Minister of CCU Orlando, and it is our pleasure, my pleasure, on behalf of all of the instructors to welcome you to this class. Our instructors are Reverend Maggie Alderman, Reverend Kathy Beasley, Reverend Roxanne Graves, and Reverend Teresa Curry, and they'll each be taking turns teaching these 4 classes on the 4 agreements. We're also joined tonight by Reverend Jim Ernston. I saw him earlier somewhere. There he is. Hi, Jim, from Unity of Central Minnesota. So we want to thank you for being here also, and feel free to jump in if you have some words of wisdom too. Some general housekeeping that I want to remind everybody of is that when we have classes where we share and we go into breakout rooms, that we call it the Vegas rule. So what's said in the class stays in the class. So I would like to just invite you to hold confidence for anybody who might share something, as we make space for them to be open and vulnerable and willing to share life's experiences for all of our growth and benefit. In Zoom, if you have something that you'd like to add to the conversation or a question to ask, you can raise your hand. If you move your cursor down to the bottom of your screen by the toolbar, you'll see the reactions button. If you click on reactions, one of the choices is to raise hand. If you do that, the class instructor will call on you and ask what your question is, or ask you for comments or feedback, whatever you'd like to say. You've also got the chat button down there that you can put comments in or ask questions in, and we'll try to monitor that too and bring that into the class too if you don't feel comfortable with the other technology or talking on screen. But this is a classroom setting. So like in a classroom, we like to see each other's faces. So if you're not eating your dinner, we'll just ask you to leave your camera on as much as possible so that we can set our screens on gallery view. If you need to do that, in the upper right-hand button of your screen, or corner, of your screen, if you go up there, you'll hover around and the view icon will show up, and you can click on that and change to gallery view and see everyone that's in the class at one time. So you have that option also. And finally, I just want to remind you that as we get to the tithing portion of the class, that each one of the ministries will be tithing to for wherever your home church is. So however you tithe electronically to your home church, at the end of the class, when you tithe, just do that under your normal tithing, whether it's on your website, whether it's mailing in, dropping it off on Sunday, if you've got an app, whatever you do to tithe to your own home church, that tithing for this class, you'll just tithe to your home church, wherever that may be. Or if you're unaffiliated with one of the churches, to wherever you're spiritually fed, or to one of the churches that are participating tonight, if you want to do that. So without any other further things, if anyone has any questions, let me know. If not, I'll turn it over to our presenter tonight, who is Reverend Kathy Beasley from, from the Central Florida Center for Spiritual Living in Winter Park, Florida, right outside of Orlando. So Reverend Kathy, you're muted. Still muted. There you are. No, for some reason, we're not hearing you, Kathy. I don't show you as muted, but your microphone's not working. So we'll take this moment to practice divine patience. We won't make any assumptions about what's going on. We won't take it personally that you can't speak to us or we can't hear you. And we are just giving you impeccably wonderful words of affirmation and support as you try to figure this out. So I think she just left and tried to come back in with her microphone on. So up until this point, if you haven't joined us for the first couple classes, the first week we talked about the dream that is described in the book, The Four Agreements that we all live under, the dream that we've created for ourselves by the agreements we've accepted throughout our life, whether they were given to us or we accepted them willingly. And we talked about the domestication that it took for us to buy into the dreams of our family, our culture, our religious upbringing, our country, and all of humanity. And that process of domestication was us receiving all of this information, and whether or not we agree to it, usually unwillingly as a child, to accept what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, so that we fit in to what's going on around us and take on those agreements that existed before we were even born. And last week was being impeccable with your word. No, sorry. Yeah, be impeccable with your word. I've got my weeks mixed up. So we were talking about the power of your word, of being clear with what you say, and the power of not using your words when it's not necessarily yours to say or not needed. So that's kind of brought us up to where we are today. Everyone would have had their talk on Sunday in their home churches about don't take anything personally. And we're just going to sit here and not take it personally that Kathy won't talk to us. So does anybody have any questions about the reading so far, or anything that got you up to this point? Anything that you are unclear about, or any aha moments that you've had in the first couple weeks of this series? Because I know some of us, when you start studying these principles, these concepts, Spirit will throw it right in your face. Here's what you're supposed to practice.
Well, Don, I can say that it's just amazed me so far at how much deeper I've really connected with this material this time around. It's probably my fourth time reading it. And it's almost at some points like I'm reading it for the very first time. I'm seeing things like, for instance, in this chapter, the whole story about the young man at the, oh, no, never mind. It was a different one, but online I saw a story about a young man who went to a movie, and there were 12 movies playing, and he bought a ticket for the one that said The Story of You. And anyway, I can, if Kathy's still working and you guys want to hear it, I'll tell you the story of that. It was
Sure.
pretty
Well,
cool.
she's trying to, I think she's trying to log in on her phone now to get connected.
Okay, good. So anyway, are you guys familiar with that story at all?
A little bit.
A little bit. The guy goes to the movies and he buys a ticket for The Story of You, even though there's a dozen movies. And he goes in and he realizes he's watching the movie of his day. And he sees himself, of course, he's the star of his show. So he's just, you know, he's handsome and having a good day and all that fun stuff. And he watches himself go through his day. He goes to his parents' house And he sees his mother, and she's, cutting vegetables, and she's got her hair tied back, and she's kind of in an apron, maybe even a little robe. And dad is very unanimated and hanging out reading his newspaper, not really saying anything. And what happened that day was he got laid off, but he assured his parents all was okay and not to worry. He had them all convinced everything was great. And then he finishes that movie because I'm going to go see another one. And this one was his mother's movie. And it starts again, only with the mother, this time cutting the vegetables. Now she's the star of her show, right? And so her hair's coiffed, and she's got beautiful earrings on, and she's dressed, like she's going out chopping her vegetables, and the father's up animated and walking around very, very handsome, because we're watching the movie from her point of view, right? And then we see the son come in, and he's all downtrodden, and hair's all messed up, shirt tails out. He's just a wreck. And the mother rushes over to him and tells him, all is okay. So she goes over to rescue the son. So he spends the rest of the time going through these different movies, and he realizes that absolutely everybody involved in his day had their own view of what was happening that day, and that none of it, other than his own movie, had anything to do with him at all. So it was impossible for him to look at that and see how he could take any of it personally, since no two stories were the same, even though they all had the same chain of events. So it was just really awesome. So I've been seeing this whole thing as an entirely different level, like I've never read the book before. So
Yeah, I get that. Yep, exactly.
Did we get Kathy yet? She's got that look on
Kathy,
her face.
last week I was host and I got kicked out 3 times. It didn't end the session for everyone. I
Really?
think we need an agreement that if we all get kicked out, we'll come right back in, because I can't change her to a co-host and not guarantee that we don't get knocked out. So are we all okay with that? We're gonna let Kathy go, and if we get dumped, we'll come right back in. Okay. Peace be with you. And I'm the host now. Hot dog. Look at that. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I guess we've all become accustomed to Zoom antics by now.
Yeah, I think so.
And that story, Roxanne, that you were saying about going to see all these different movies just kind of ties right into what the first week was about tonight, actually, with Don't Make Assumptions. Because when someone says something to you, that's the first thing you're going to do. Or I'm sorry, about taking it personally. How can anything that someone says, can you take it personally when they're saying something in their movie and you're not even in the movie?
No, you're
not in
lucky
the
if you're
movie.
playing a bit part in their movie,
Yeah.
much less a starring role.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And it really gave me some opportunity. I mean, I've journaled about my childhood a bazillion times, but I had an opportunity to chat with a mentor of mine for a while about the true realization, like with every fiber of my being, understanding that no matter how badly anything my father did affected me, absolutely not one bit of it had anything to do with me at all.
Yeah.
No matter how it affected me, none of it was personal. It was fascinating. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
me, the huge takeaway for me from this chapter is how liberating the concept is. That whatever someone says, if you can avoid taking it personally, that how liberating and powerful that is for you, because you don't give any of your power away and you're not tied to them there's no, I don't want to say regret. There's no lashback. There's no feedback. There's no need to get even or to reject or deny or refute what they're saying. If you can not take it personally, you're not tied into them at all at that point. And it's not that it didn't happen, but
Right.
pretty close. It was like, yes, and thank you. As if someone had offered you, sauerkraut for lunch, and you're like, no, thank you, I don't like sauerkraut. I'll have the French fries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, Jim. Yeah, Myra, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something very simple, not high level like you all were talking about. But on page 60, it suggested that we write this agreement on a paper and put it on our refrigerator to remind ourselves, don't take things personally. And one thing that I have used before in workshops, training teachers, has been to put a Q-tip in a baggie, and the Q-tip is a reminder, quit taking it personally.
Very
I
good.
just thought I'd share it with the group.
That's really funny. I had a training as a teacher where I got a Q-tip and I just found it the other day and I couldn't remember why I had a Q-tip, but I knew it was a training. And I'm like, I got to figure this out. So you answered a question. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually have all 4 agreements written on a piece of paper on my bulletin board right next to my desk. So I see it every single day, all the time. I also added it to my little list of what I call my daily prayers. Of whenever I find prayers that are work for me, and some come and go and drop off, and I rewrite some of them, but that's one of my staples that are in my little Word document that's on my computer always. My daily prayers is those 4 agreements. So yeah. All right, Kathy thinks she's
Kathy's back.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yay!
Ooh,
Yay.
So I heard a whole lot about some Q-tips and some plastic bags and some stickies. So
Personal reminders to not take anything.
reminders. All right, because I mean, I didn't know if I needed to run grab a Q-tip for show and tell.
It wasn't
But-
audience participation. You're safe.
All right. So thank you all so much for enduring this. I am not going to take it personal that my technology decided it wanted to do something different this evening. I'm going to still love it, bless it, and unplug it and let it rest through the night. And we're going to keep on going. My thoughts as I calm down after sweeping everything off my desk and alarming the dog are that let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart find themselves to be holy, holy, and helpful indeed as we prepare to move forward this evening. So thank you again. So I chose this particular agreement on purpose because it was the work that my soul needed to do. And because if there's anybody on the planet that could take something personal, I'm like magnetic about it. I can take an eye roll, the side eye, a deep sigh, the way a person walks in a room and does or does not speak, I can just take all that personally until I started to reread the book again. And so I had the first agreement that I had to make was not be impeccable with my word. The first agreement I had to make was it's not all about you. And I had to make that at a soul level because my soul was running the show, but my soul could get pissed off periodically and start to take all sorts of stuff personally and pack it in its pockets and keep it for later. So when I started to make that agreement that everything in the universe, everything in the world, everything in a room wasn't about me. It changed everything in the universe, everything in the world, and everything in that room. And it also changed everything about me. And this idea, I show up almost as though I am tough as nails, but I really am not. My feelings can get hurt easily in the thing. So what I started to recognize about the agreements is that it was an external and an internal dialogue for me. And so I needed to have a plan that if I'm not going to take everything personally, then what am I going to do? Because what am I going to do with all that time from walking around where I was taking all things first? What am I going to do with all those emotions? So it was me and my matote, which is that itty bitty committee that's always in session in your head. And I'm hearing impaired, so I don't go places that have these really great acoustics, according to my friends, and crowds of people, because I can't hear myself breathe. And that's what would happen when the committee would go into session. And I couldn't hear myself think, I couldn't hear myself breathe. Because if you think about those moments, well, hold on. Has everybody ever taken something personally? If you've ever taken something personally, raise your hand. Roxanne, I see you never a day, huh? So have you noticed how you can create an entire mini series in your head about what you think and you believe, and then you tell two friends who tell two friends who check in with you later about how you were feeling? These are your ride or die friends that are there regardless. Somebody makes you mad, they want to know if they need to bring the boxes or whatever because they're coming to help you. So think about those times when you took something personally. Think about the energy that you dispensed in behind your perspective. And I caught a little bit about some perspectives here and there. Roxanne was talking about the movie. And the example that I use at work in teaching people about perspective is our physical building is 6 stories tall, not 6 feet, sorry, 6 stories tall. And we start on the first floor and we look out of the window, we see what we can see. Then we go to the 6th floor, look out the same window on the 6th floor, and we talk about how much further our view is cast. So we can have different perspectives. And I'm like Charles Fillmore, I reserve the right to change my mind based on new information, but I also reserve the right to change my perspective based on an elevator ride and based on some new information that pours into me. So when we start talking about don't take anything personally, this showed up for me in twofold. First, it showed up as a warning, said don't. It's like halt in the name of love. Don't do it. But then it showed up as an invitation in this reading that invited me into this space where I don't have to take anything personally. And it helped me understand that in every segment of my existence, I get to choose. Now, do we have anybody, am I the only person here tonight that's the youngest of their siblings? We have any other youngest of their siblings? So in our house, being the youngest, I didn't get to decide anything. I didn't get to choose anything. I couldn't wait to be an adult so I could make me some decisions. And this idea about the agreements, we get to choose not only just between these 4 and how we use them, but everything that we do is rooted in an agreement that we've made. So if we're taking things personally, it's because we have an agreement to take some stuff personally. We have an agreement to be sensitive. We have an agreement to allow our feelings to be hurt by other people. And what we are learning in this particular gathering is how to not lean into that, to make a different choice. My grandmother used to say, when you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And my thing about with what you always got, if you don't want what you always got, please, for the love of all that's holy, make a different choice. Life is like a vending machine. If you don't like Doritos, get you some Tootsie Rolls. You don't like Tootsie Rolls, please get your Twinkie. They're choices. And so we get to choose how we respond. But if we could just hold on to the idea that not everything is about us, then that allows us to hold everything that we feel and everything that we think intact. So if somebody walked to me and said, hey, Kathy, your hair is just way too blonde. I'm like, girl, you need some new glasses. Because nothing about me believes that my hair is blonde. The truth about me is that my hair is not blonde. So if somebody walks up to you and they say something to you that you just know with all that you are is not true. And there's something I read in the book, and I read it for the very first time. I just swear I have a different edition this time because there's some stuff in there that I never saw. But he talked about this importance of being right. Anybody here need to be right? Just few. I'll just raise the pinky. Every now and then, I need to be right. I'm the youngest of 4 children, and I am my mother's child, and my mother's claim to fame was having the last word in any conversation. And so we place a level of importance on being right. That's why we feel the need to correct the person that's saying something to us that's not true. We need to be right. Otherwise, you just kind of let it go because you know it's not true. Only you know your truth. It's not a conference call. Understanding yourself is not a Zoom session. Understanding yourself is a conversation with yourself. That's where your perspectives are rooted and where they come from. So when you encounter something that is unlike the truth you know, can we just let it be unlike the truth we know? Or do we have to walk around and correct the earth? I mean, I know we live in Florida. I've encountered some flowers that bloom in the fall. I don't have time to go and correct the flowers and tell them it's not spring. Now, I have a digital assistant. We call her Bianca because if I say her name, she'll start talking to me. But I ask Bianca all the time, what is the weather? And she'll tell me that there is a 51% chance of rain in Apopka. I get up tomorrow morning, I asked Bianca about the weather, and she said there is no rain expected in Apopka. I get to choose to plan my day based off of that 51% lie tonight, or I get a chance to experience the reality closer to the moment that I really need to know. So the bottom line for us in these agreements, friends, is we get to choose always. It's kind of like being on a game show. And you get to choose, you remember Let's Make a Deal, you get to choose what's behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. You get to choose, and every moment, every breath, every connection, you have an opportunity to choose how you're going to respond, how you're going to engage, how you're going to move through it, and how you're going to thrive in the midst of it. And that's what makes life fun, because there are some people, I believe, who just wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna call Kathy and make her mad. And they send me this really long email. I have a rule, if I have to scroll 3 times, probably not gonna read all that. You better spit it out in the subject or those first 3 sentences. Otherwise my ADHD kicks in and it's like, I'm out. And they will just bare their soul about how they feel about something I did, didn't do, said, thought, or experienced. And my reply to them is, thank you so much. Grace and peace, Reverend Kathy. I can only imagine what happens on the other side of that computer. But the thing that I know that happens on this side, I'm not going to take that diatribe personally, because it has everything to do with the other person. And when you know that and you're moving through the universe, your life gets easier because life becomes one big Netflix series. You get to engage it, you can pause it, you can fast forward through it. You can even turn that girl off when you get tired of it. And so as we start to look at how the second agreement unfolds in our lives, we have to first make that agreement with ourselves, because that's who the agreement is made with. I thought that I had to make the agreement with everybody I encountered, that I'm not going to take what you say personally. But no, I make that agreement at a soul level. I'm not taking anything personally today. I root in that, I rest in that, and I affirm that. And when I'm listening to something, I start to feel my temperature boiling, I just have a little, me and the Matote have a talk and go, not doing this, not taking this personally. Because if I take it personally, I'm going to respond, and this already too long conversation is going to get longer. And the relationship is in jeopardy. My energy level's in jeopardy. The glass might break, who knows? But there's a cost for that. So, beloved, I tell you all of this to tell you that you get to choose ever and always how you proceed, how you move, and how you breathe in the face of anything. Because the only truth about you that exists, the only truth about you that will ever set you free is the truth that you know. And so ends my comments this evening. So Tony, I saw Tony's hand. I'll come back to Tony. I'll put my glasses on so I can hear y'all. And Marilyn, I see your hand.
You said that to take things personally is a choice, and that we don't have to, oh, I'm sorry, to be sensitive is a choice, and we don't have to be sensitive. I beg to disagree, because Elaine Aron has done some research, and she wrote the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and it's a genetic trait that either we inherit the gene or we don't. And if we inherit the gene, then we're a highly sensitive person. And so to say, oh, I have a choice between being sensitive or not sensitive. I mean, yes, there's all kinds of coping strategies to be less sensitive or to be more balanced and so on and so forth. But whether to be a highly sensitive person or not a highly sensitive person is not a choice.
Okay, I'll take that. But recognize that my comments were about your response, not your level of sensitivity.
Okay.
Who else has
I
a
have to
thought?
be right.
Thank you, because if you don't talk to me, I'm gonna start calling you by name because I can see you. So when we take things personally, let's use our chat for a second. Are you all aware of when you've taken something personally? Do you have a sense of awareness before the fact or after the fact? More so after? I'm seeing the heads nod, the eyes roll from one side to the other.
More so
Yeah, I wish
after.
what'd you say, Rox?
More so after.
Yeah, I wish I had that electrified fence in front that says you're about to take this personally, stop. Because at least the electrified fence, you can hear it. But if there's something in front of you and that to slow your roll, you've got a better chance. And the thing I did not remember him saying was all of this is to preclude a level of suffering. And suffering isn't a word I use a lot, but in reading it, it's almost like it was bold-faced and it jumped off the page. And so that our choices and our agreements, they can lead us towards it or away from it. And so that power of choice is huge. And so for our folk on the panel, how did you move through your don't take it personal conversations and messages on Sunday?
I'm Teresa, and I'll share on that. I think, first of all, thank you, Kathy, for all of your perspective. And, you know, I feel like that dog in the back of the window going, yep, 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 you know. But what I love about this too is, besides the fact of really getting anchored in your awareness, not to take anything personal, and that whoever's name you want to place upon it, had it only, everything was truly about them. It really never, ever had anything to do with me, like Roxanne, you were saying beforehand. But also too, the part that I loved about this is to take this part a little bit further, because right behind not taking this personal, to me, the empowerment of this is for us to, as you were saying, to place our trust in ourselves, knowing who we are and not being hooked on everybody else's opinions, whatever they have to say, all that type of thing, to really stand more empowered in the truth of who we are. And as well as to question my own thinking too, because sometimes that'll lead me askew, as we mentioned earlier as well. Question and inquire, that is part of my own personal work to do, and what they say, don't believe everything I'm thinking, because, there have been some agreements made there too, haven't there? But I love that. And I love where he said that the gift of this agreement, immunity to the poison that he calls about it. He says immunity to poison in the middle of hell is the gift of this agreement. And haven't we all been in that place of hell when we've given our power away, when somebody else's opinions or whatever about us have been way more important to us than how we felt about ourselves? And it touched that little place in me that still needs a little more healing. And then I got the hook. So, I think it's powerful. And I'm like all the rest of you. I have to tell you, and I just mentioned this to one of my congregants before the class started. I swear to you, I feel like I've never read this book before. So something powerful is really occurring, with all of this. And I feel it within myself. And so I'm really grateful. And I think that, where he touched on that whole thing about personal importance, that everything is about me, that nothing other people do is because of you, and well, it is about me. And now what am I going to do with it? I have choices, like you're saying there, Kathy. Will I respond? Will I react? Will I take some time for some introspection, take it into my prayer time and see what's really going on with me about all of this? What is this here to teach me? And I'll share this other thing. The other part that I thought was really good that he talked about in here is to be sure that what's coming out of our mouth, that the verbal and behavior needs to match on things. That's when he was talking in there about where people will lie, and we will lie to ourselves as well, and for me to look at that what's coming out of the mouth, what's being spoken, also needs to match what the behavior looks like. And I shared on Sunday, there was a period of my life where, goodness gracious, I believed everything that was coming out of somebody's mouth, hook, line, and sinker, when that behavior was not even close, not even close. So thank you, God, for awareness. So anyway, this is just packed full with gifts. So thank you all once again for being here. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Reverend Teresa. As you were talking, one of the things that crept back in for me was it's easy to place ourselves in opposition to another human being. But sometimes that conversation is within. And so sometimes we have to learn to not take our own thoughts personally and to look at those thoughts. It's like years ago, I took a class when we talked about the observer, observing the observer, observing the observer, observing the observer, in order to be able to simply just let it go. And this idea that we can actually divert or detour ourselves with our thoughts when we start to bring those messages from our childhood that we didn't believe then, or that we resisted then, but somehow it's like that stain on the carpet. Once whatever that is soils the what's the thing underneath the carpet?
Padding.
The padding. Once it soils the padding, you can get that carpet clean for a season. But that stain has the ability, and for what I believe, the desire to come back at the most unexpected moments, like an hour before your Christmas party, when you got a whole lot of people coming over and you got to explain what looks like a body in the middle of the room. And so that's kind of how those messages travel with us. They're in the padding and they have the ability to seep through. But even though they have the ability to do that, we have the choice whether or not we're going to be bothered by it. And he talked about the idea of the mind being able to listen. And I always think about it, the idea that our body is eavesdropping on our mind.
Mhm.
And our mind is eavesdropping on our body. So there's this always 24-hour news cycle exchange that's always going on, and it's always connected. And Teresa, one of the comments you said is what is this here to teach me? Because we can't just turn it off. And I'm not good at that. I can't just turn it off because I'll go back and turn it. It's on pause. So I'm gonna go back and turn it back on, then I'm gonna hit play. But we have to stop for a moment and go, why are you here? What are you here to teach me? And it's like grade school. Until you master the skills at that level, you have the opportunity to repeat that skill, to repeat that lesson until you get it. And that's why reading this book, there's so many things that I get that I thought I had. But I think what I did is I memorized the 4 agreements. I didn't necessarily consider the agreements that I had intact
Mhm.
or my capacity to make new agreements.
Mhm.
Yeah. Who else from the panel? Reverend Roxanne, you're wearing my favorite color, so you get to be next.
Yay. You know, it has to go both ways, right? Nothing anybody is doing or saying is really about me, but nothing that I'm doing or saying is really about anybody else either. And you were talking about if somebody said your hair was yellow, you know your hair's not yellow, so you're not going to really pay any attention to that at all. You're just going to move on. It's going to let it go by. But I really need to look at any time that I grab a hold of it. So your hair's yellow and I grab a hold of it and I want to argue about it. No, it isn't. Can't you see that my hair is, whatever it is. And if you can't see that, then, we need to get you a pair of glasses because of course my hair is exactly the way I see my hair being. And I want to argue about it. There is something in me that believes a little bit about what they're saying. There's something being triggered in me. I know when I was starting to really look at my own behavior, my own trigger behavior, I would ask myself, and I still do all the time, if I start getting scared or mad or resentful, whatever the uncomfortable feeling is, it's very beneficial if I'll stop and ask myself, what is it I believe about what's happening right now? Is there something in me that believes I'm not doing something correctly? Or I'm afraid maybe I'm not doing it correctly because I'm not very confident. Or somebody's saying something about me because they don't like me. Well, why would I think that? Is there something about me that I feel is less than worthy of being loved? There's always something in me that will make me grab hold of whatever it is I want to argue about. And only when there's something in it that deep down inside I connect with. So there you go.
I like it. So that's a good way to end the message. And there you go. One of the things that I said that the author talks about that really resonates with me in terms of your sharing is that that reach out that we do to grab hold of it is because something in us believes. And so it gives us a chance to really explore what we believe about what we believe. And to have that conversation with ourselves, and how that belief pushes us forward into things. That is so powerful because I'm like, threaten me with a good time. Let's argue about some stuff. But it's a couple of things. It's that desire to be right. It's that need to have the prevailing argument. And we saw that a lot, like during the political races and stuff. because I was like, will somebody please tap out so this can be over? But it was just this constant level of one-upmanship. I grew up, we used to call it playing the dozens, where you just go back and forth, and there was like no end in sight. But when we do this, we have to look at how we align, how we connect to what was said. Because if we don't care, I don't know about you all, but when I don't care about something, I'm not even aware that it's there. I'm just moving along. It's invisible for whatever reason to me until something in me aligns with the fact that it's present. And so all of this really teaches us a lesson about ourselves. I thought it was, first time I read it, I thought it was all about everybody else. Even though he only says it 102 times throughout the whole book, that this is you. And it's kind of like watching the credits roll at the end of a movie, where you get a chance, if you watch it just close enough, you'll see that the part of you is always and only ever played by you, not anybody else. You unless you have a stunt double, which none of that. It's always you. All the characters are you, but you are absolutely you. And so this idea of not taking things personal, you look at the word take. I'm the shortest of my siblings. And for whatever reason, my mom had a way of saying, I guess that's because I was closest to the ground. Don't pick that up because you don't know where that's been. It's that way about beliefs. It's that way about perspective. Brene Brown talks about it in her work a lot, about bringing things in and holding it close to your heart space. And so that idea of when we take something personally, we're bringing it in. And sometimes I think it's a worthy shot and a worthy question to say, wonder where this has been. Do I need to put this down? Can this do me harm? Or why do I think I need it? Reverend Maggie, I saw you pop up a minute ago.
Yes, ma'am. When you said take, I remember a point that I used on Sunday from Reverend Jill Carey, where she said, you can't be offended unless you take offense. So we're talking about being offended. We're taking it personally. And that goes in alignment with the entire teaching of this chapter from Don Miguel Ruiz and what we allow to take our energy and our thought process and our co-creative process. I mean, all that we are and all the capability we have needs direct focus. And anytime we take offense, we're running things through the layers of projection and perception, how we perceive and receive the world based on those understandings. So I was a little silly on Sunday and I brought like 6 pairs of sunglasses, because that's the layers of what we are handed, agreements at every single one of those layers, from the moment we draw breath and get into school and start building relationships and then go into the workplace and inside of that is adolescence and sexuality and race and socioeconomic status. Become aware of that, and all of those beliefs that get shuffled inside that deck. That's where we receive and perceive everything in that subconscious mind. And so much work has to be done to even begin to uncover 1/10 of it. There is more in there that we will never, ever, ever, ever become aware of. But that does not mean that it doesn't have an influencing factor on how we perceive what's coming at us and how we receive it into our body. So the work starts here, I think, for me, is I can definitely start to master being impeccable with my word when I know all of the emotions, or the top 10, let's just go there, the top 10 emotional triggers and what they are associated with. And that takes a lot of work. It's an inside job. And I will just go ahead and say it. I've been saying this to my congregation. Unity principle number 6 is minding our own business. If I have this level of work to do, then I cannot be worried about you. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in this package that I was created in and all of the stuff I've picked up along the way. And if I'm really aware of that and I'm really connected to myself, my soul, and the work that I was asked to be here in this life to do, I don't have time to take it personally. And I don't have time to worry about why you're acting the way you are. And I'm trying to pick it up and make it personal. So this just reinforces and reinforces the constant perpetual self-inquiry. And our bodies, I said this today to a congregant, our bodies are our best ally. They are our best ally to inform us when we are betraying ourselves, when we are sinning against ourselves, and how our solar plexus might light up. You know, if certain people come in the room and I know you're going to have something to say, and right away, what's my stomach do? Right? Or someone comes in the room and we always going to get into it. So what's my throat going to do? I don't, you know, so this is a divine sleuthsayer that helps inform us when we are starting to sway one way or another against our own personal agreements. So the work is at that soul level, but to not discount and discard the informant that is this super sensitive power machine of a body to start to show us where we need to actually put our attention. And it's never, ever, ever, ever outside of what's going on just right here. That's my big reminder and what I would share with y'all.
Thank you, Reverend Maggie. That's awesome. Unity principle number 6, mind your own business. The unity principle number 7, what other people think about me is none of my business.
None of my business.
And, you know, what I thought about as you were talking was, you know, way back in the day when we would get on airplanes all the time and go places. You have to sit through that 3-minute lecture about how the airplane works. And it's amusing if you fly Southwest, because at least they do the voices. But that idea of put your own oxygen mask on first before you start trying to help people around you. And one of the things that I thought about with that oxygen mask, that cord on that oxygen mask is only so long. So you don't get to run up and down the aisle trying to help people put their oxygen mask on. You pretty much are bound right there where you are. And you can breathe like you're trying to breathe it all in. At one time, you're gonna get you some air for later. I don't know. But you can do all of those things, but you can only really go so far. And so this is just that reminder of look at self first. Let's make sure I'm good. And you're right about how the body will signal us when certain things are about to happen. When certain people show up, you can't even help the rolling of the eyes. Your stomach tightens up, and not in the way that you got a lot like abs and stuff. It just tightens up. You can't breathe. You start to feel, my nephew says it, some kind of way, all of a sudden. And I think that those feelings are worth questioning. Why do I feel this way? What's going on in me? Before I take out my stickies and start running around the room and labeling everything and everybody that I see, because I don't want to be labeled. So I'm not going to do that for you all. One of the things, there are a few things in the chat. Deborah says that if you're irritated by every rub, how will your mirror be polished? That's a cool Rumi quote. You know, Rumi could drop some knowledge on you with just 140 characters. But if you think about it, if you spend your life irritated by everything, how will your mirror ever be polished? So if that's the rub, I would rather take that rub and use it on my own mirror. Chris says that we don't live out there, point away from yourself. We live in here, point at your head. And I mean, this, I don't know about you all, this is like comfortable for me. It's like a Barker lounger. Many years ago, I taught a class called Get Out of the Box. And after class, I invited people over to the box to look in because I decorated the inside of the box. There was comfortable seating in the box. There were snacks in the box because I needed to, because the thing that you're trying to get out of often is comfortable. It's like those special sweatpants you wear on Thanksgiving. It's comfortable. You don't want to get out of that. And that's how our thinking and our awareness can be. It's comfortable. We're used to it. Anything that's not here is scary. It's different. It's a change. It's not like everything else. But Dorothy Moore taught me this idea of be willing to travel 16 inches from your brain to your heart. And let that be the space where you start to really engage yourself. Because if you can't pour from an empty vessel. And so you have to start with yourself such that you would have something that you could pour out and release into the world. Let's see. Oh, wait, the chat is hot. What you think of me is none of my business. Oh, cool. We have somebody. Now I know where that came from. Terry Cole Whitaker. What you think of me is none of my business. Let's see. Hank says a similar quote, what other people think of you really isn't any of your business. It's best to not let other people's opinions prevent you from being the authentic version of yourself. I especially appreciate that last part. Thank you, Hank. And thank you all who've been sharing in the chat that we're able to draw back to ourselves and see where these agreements really begin, because the ultimate agreements are with the soul. They all start right here. I can't agree with you all out here until I start to agree in here. Is my hand up? No, that's Don's hand. Hey, Don, is it time for a break?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, when you were talking about the power of these taking things personally, that when we take things personally, we internalize that hurt, then we make a judgment, and then we carry a grudge, and we're just adding things on ourselves. And if we don't take that personally, it eliminates all those future steps and everything we're going to go forward. So one of the ahas that I had with this material was one element, one aspect of not taking things personally is it also works retroactively. That if you go back and look at those judgments you've made in the past, those grudges that you're holding from the past, and go back and look at what really happened and realize that part of it was you taking personally what they said or did. And if you can release that and not take it personally anymore, then that also opens you up to, it releases the strength of the judgment that you made. It empowers your ability to enter into forgiveness, and you can erase and let go of some of the stuff that you're holding on to, because not taking it personally isn't just for whatever's going to happen now and in the future. You can choose to look backwards and not take personally things that you did take personally in the past, and change your mind on that I'm not going to take it personally. What they said really wasn't about me. That interaction or confrontation wasn't as bad as I think it was, or I chose to make it if I take taking personally out of that equation, and it turns into something else. And how can we heal it now easier with it being in the past without taking personally what that person said or did or whatever happened to those events? So it just gave me a way of broadening out the application of don't take it personally to not just the present and the future, but in your past also, because whatever they did back then or said back then, that couldn't have had anything to do with me either. It isn't just what they're going to say now. It's what they would have said in the past also.
Don, I don't know what it is that when you start sharing, I start hearing music. And so this week's rendition of what Don said was, share if I could turn back time. And so in this idea,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Yeah, you can turn back time. It's like a divine click undo.
Mhm.
And so thank you for that, because I'm going to turn back time a little bit, because there are a couple of things back there I can go back and click undo about that. So Don, that's like awesome. You're a keeper. And so before we go to break, I want Reverend Jim. Yes, you. Hey, were there any insights that you'd like to share with the community this evening?
It's all been said.
All right. I've never heard a minister say that before.
I'm new.
I love it. There's a gentleman in my community says if the minister's in the room, if you don't give them 3 minutes, they'll burst into flames. So, so Don, can we take a break?
Yeah, let's just do a 5-minute break. Anybody needs to get a cup of coffee or a glass of iced tea or take a bio break, and we'll meet back here at about 6 after, 8:06.
All right.
All right.
Cool. So you got 5 whole minutes to turn back time. Let's see what happens when we come back.
There's one power invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door, but whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see it? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power, one power. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. The different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. Oh, it's the power of the love in you and me. One power. Oh.
Reverend Maggie.
There you go.
Yeah, go share. Hey, Reverend
Share.
Kathy.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I
Remember,
thought that was you.
remember me? I'm the misfit in the class.
You're troublemaker, but I like a little trouble. Reverend Maggie. Maggie. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know. Say your name now.
Maggie.
No, she can't hear you.
That or she has figured out the secret that many have sought.
She's frozen.
Is it?
Yeah, she's
No, she's
frozen.
not
Oh, no,
frozen.
she's
No,
she's
smoking,
smiling
she's
now.
hiding from you. She's acting like she can't hear you, but she can.
Uh-huh.
I got both my puppies here.
Roxanne, I've told you.
Let me see those puppies. Wait a puppy.
I'm coming to borrow them.
I would let you actually.
I use the word borrow very loosely.
Yeah. They are some piece of work. They are magnificent, but it's hard having two large dogs and they be 9 months old.
I know. It's like having two inside ponies.
It is kind of, you know,
My,
they're,
my two large dogs think they're lap dogs.
yes, yes.
All right, it's 8:07 and we're back. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a nice little break. Kathy, you want to open it up for questions? We've had
Uh-huh.
a lot of bit of talk. So if anybody's got any questions or your personal ahas from this chapter, we would love to get feedback from all of you.
So come on, don't be shy. It's Vegas.
Kathy will start calling on you.
This
All
is
right,
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Yeah, Rachel?
Hi. I just wanted to say, just my aha moment was how this relates to bullying.
Mhm.
You know, if especially kids, you know, and social media, if they could, you know, this agreement would come across to them, that I think it would be very, very helpful.
Hmm.
That's just my take on it.
Thank you, Rachel. I saw somewhere in one of the minister forums where they were talking about creating a for agreement course for young people. And I think that that would be very, very, very cool to do that. So thank you for sharing that thought with the universe to help bring that on into being a little more quickly. Cheryl.
Yeah, I had a couple opportunities to actually apply this week. And what I found is if I can do it in a way that's humorous, like somebody coming up to you, Reverend Kathy, and saying that your hair is blonde. Well, that is just totally ridiculous. But if I can do that regardless of what they say and not take on their beliefs about me, then it's really funny if you think about it. You know, when somebody comes up and says, you know, why did you do that? You're just so stupid. Well, that's really funny because I know I'm not. So that's, if you can add, for me, when I add humor to something, it makes it actually more real. So that's all.
Thank you. I do that in my head too, because I think I'm only funny to me. So every now and then I crack a good joke and I crack myself up and people wonder why I'm laughing when I really should be mad. So that's also fun too. Freak people out. It's the best way to do it. Did anybody have any more ahas, or if you've read the book before, were there things that you saw like much like mine, where I swear I have a different edition? Because that couldn't have been there the first 3 times I read it. Were there any things that you all saw for the very first time?
Chris, did you have your hand up? Chris Minerva?
Oh, she's not on my screen.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to know, I mean, I keep telling people, this is it. Life is a game. God has given us grace and loves us and has given us this journey to be on. It's individual. Anything that we share with someone else is a bonus. It's a blessing. And if you don't think if it's a game and if you're not having fun, time to stop and rethink. It's not about what other people say about you, but it's about how we can help each other be fulfilling of our journey individually. And that's the long and the short of it. If you don't understand there's a game, it's a game. It's an important game. God loves us. God loves us. We should love us. And that's all. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Thank you. Cassie.
Hey, how are you?
Getting you.
Good. So I've never read this book. I don't know what version y'all are talking about, but I'm on the current one. And it was a little bit of an aha when it says that personal importance or taking things personally is the maximum expression of selfishness. That really kind of hit me hard because I don't really consider myself to be a selfish person. But when you think about it, when it is all about you, you are being selfish. So that kind of was like, that kind of twisted my perspective on the entire thing with that one sentence, because, you know, it's the maximum expression of its selfishness. I almost feel like embarrassed that I do take things personally. And then the other part later on in the chapter, they mention that you really shouldn't believe the good stuff too. You know, you should be kind of, you know, you should have that filter on for both good. You can't just like take this compliment and not take that one, or, you know, take this feedback and not that one. You should take it equally. So that was definitely mind changing. So there's a shift in my brain after that first thing with maximum expression of selfishness. I actually like underlined it because that is almost like a little bit mouth opening a little bit. That would be how that is interpreted. But if you think about it, when it is all about you and you take something personal like that, even about yourself, that's super selfish. So I'm grateful for that, reading that actually.
Thank you, Cassie, for calling that out. I missed that one, but I did pick up this time that taking to not believe the good stuff either, because it's easy to go one for you, one for me, more for me. It's easy
I'll
to
believe
do
this,
that.
but I won't believe that. You know, that's not right either.
Right.
You know, and you don't really want to believe a bunch of, you know, sometimes maybe in business you have people around you telling you all these wonderful things. You really shouldn't take that, bad or good. You really shouldn't believe any of it. So I'm going to actually print that out and put it, don't take anything personally, somewhere, my vision.
I love it. Thank you, Cassie. I appreciate that,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
illumination you share with us. Hey, Jess.
Hey, so I don't know, this thought just occurred to me. Some of you guys know this. I work at a middle school, and I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, middle school, like that's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade here, like 11 to 14 years old. Those are some of the worst years of a person's life. I think it was really hard for me. And I'm just thinking about how part of the problem is that everything is taken personally by every single student, it feels like. And so if a teacher said, oh, sorry, you're late for class, you got a tardy, it's like the teacher hates me. Or your friend decided to sit somewhere else at lunch. Well, my friends don't want anything to do with me anymore. And then it's, yeah, so I'm just thinking about how I didn't like it then, and I'm not going to go back through it now. So this is a way I can kind of remember that. And I'm also thinking at the same time, like, I want to make like a big banner with the 4 agreements and like post it at the entrance to the school and just get the kids, you know, having that conversation. Well, what does this mean? I'd love to see their perspective.
That's beautiful. I really would love to hear some of the young people's perspective on these, because they're seeing the world from a completely different paradigm than we are. And so whew, I'm sorry, I just get excited just thinking about that. Were there any other folk who had some ahas and some where'd that come from kind of thing? And I'll throw another question out before we close is how do we go forward now that we know? One of the things Roxanne said in one of her very first messages as a Unity minister was, now that you know, you don't get to unknow. And so now that we know, what do we do with that? How can we go forward? Deborah, I see your hand.
Hi, again, thank you all for doing this. I really appreciate the effort that the panel has made, and it's my second time to read the book, so I maybe only have the second edition. But for me, this one particular one, don't take it personal, and obviously I feel like that was probably a big lesson for me. I had a really hard time wrapping my mind around what that actually meant. For the longest time, I was like, well, I don't really know what that means. So coming back to it really helped. And this time it's like this huge weight has just sort of been taken off of my shoulders, that I don't have to be that quick response, or, it's usually for me, it's driving. Okay, I'm going to be honest. It's just, I take everything personally when I'm driving. But it's one of my biggest things. But it's just been for me like a big just relief, that I reading it again and it coming through to me in a different way. So I really appreciate y'all doing this.
Thanks, Deborah. Reverend Maggie.
Thank you. I had something, it drops in the midst of a talk on a Sunday, right? And it just, I just remembered that in my Sunday lesson, I somewhere tapped into the wiring of our brain, and how so many of these agreements were established way back for survival purposes. We are tribal people. Our root chakra is the root for a reason. We had to survive, and to be able to survive, we needed to be together. And to be together and not be ousted, you had to be accepted. And I said on Sunday, like, not taking it personally, and your opinion and your thoughts about me no longer impact me at a survival level. I can hunt and fish and gather at Publix. If you don't like me and you're going to kick me out, I have a supermarket. I'm not going to die of starvation on my own. And so it is for us in this like evolutionary cycle. We're literally raising in the collective consciousness right now. I think that's why so many of us are like, did I ever see this before? We saw it at a lower level of collective consciousness. And now we're being forced without our agreement to rise up through this pandemic and asked to let go of some of those really rudimentary beliefs and recognize that the conditions of our survival are no longer in a cave rubbing sticks together and hoping we get some bear meat and a fur to stay warm. And then in order to do that, we have to sacrifice ourselves and what might be true and right for us. So that's a perspective that I just wanted to drop in because it seemed to really resonate with the CCU congregation. And it's something that I have been working to regain dominion over the last 18 months. Our survival brain, the amygdala in our brain, has been just like, oh, we have to survive this pandemic. And it is taking control. So it's back to regaining control over our thought process and our emotions. And that kind of goes to what Marilyn said at the top of our class about being sensitive. If we believe what Unity's co-founders believed, is that we don't inherit sickness. We don't necessarily, I hear you on the genetics, and science is science. I get blue eyes from my grandparents. That's the truth of the matter. And when it's a condition that is affecting our parasympathetic nervous system and our thought process, we actually do have the ability to recognize, uh-oh, sensitivity alert. Uh-oh, I'm taking it personally. Uh-oh, I feel like I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe and I'm going to starve to death in the middle of July in Florida. Lie. And recognize where that's landing in us and recondition our thought process. One, it's not shameful to be a sensitive person. Well, I think we're all sensitive, some more sensitive than not, but we can actually take that on and say, I'm going to take this challenge and I'm no longer going to identify as an overly sensitive person. And when it springs up in a sensation in my body, like the amygdala brain, like we're going to get kicked out of the tribe, we can bring it back into focus and tame that untruth into a level of perspective that is true for us. So that's all. I just wanted to talk about the brain a little bit.
Thank you, Reverend Maggie. The root of this chapter is really to help us understand that when we truly lean into the direction of not taking things personally. Let me piggyback on the tribal concept. and that fear, but we become immune to that way of thinking and to that way of being. We become immune to the idea of suffering, that idea of personally suffering. And I could find a lot better things to do with my time than just to suffer in that regard. So having an immunity card, or the immunity idol, as we're surviving, it helps so much in its own little way, because now I know that I know that truth within me. And Reverend Jim, I see your hand, and then we'll go to Vicky.
Yeah, thank you. I've heard a couple different times, and I wanted to kind of address this. Many of us have read this book multiple times, and some of us have gleaned new information this last time. And I'm going to suggest that is the mark of a good writer, a good speaker, a good teacher, in fact. So, Don Miguel is just up there in terms of teachers for us. You think of the parables, those were teaching devices that had multiple levels. It wasn't about where to plant your seeds. It had other levels. So when I come back in 5 years and read this for the 4th time, I'm sure I'm going to get a different understanding of it. It's going to be a different level of these concepts. And that's the mark of, like I said, a great teacher. So I appreciate Don Miguel very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend Jim. Vicky, I see your hand. You're on mute. There you go.
Yes, I was gonna say, according to this chapter, what I got out of it is suffering is a choice. In a way, it is. Suffering is a choice. However, pain is necessary. For example, if you put your hand on the stove, you need the pain to move your hand, to save your hand. If something hurt, if you fall and your arm hurts, you have pain in your arm, maybe you broke your arm, you need to take care of that. So pain is a necessity. Maybe it's a better way of phrasing it, but it's kind of necessary, but the suffering is a choice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Vicky. And beloved, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm tired of suffering. I thought of one of those memes that you see on social media. It's a meme of Kermit the Frog when he's sipping a cup of tea, and he says, "Ain't nobody got time for that." And so I don't have time for suffering anymore. Life is shorter than it used to be, and it was already short. And so I'm gonna spin the wheel and choose something else, and also do it with the awareness of these 4 agreements, but all of the agreements that operate within me and help me be who I am. Marilyn, hey, I see your hand. Welcome back. You're muted. We can't hear you. There you are. Yeah.
Well, I've really been into Eastern religions, and one of them that I've been into is Buddhism, and the first noble truth is life is suffering. And that's not to say that we're suffering all the time, but there is suffering that does happen. For example, the victims of school shootings and their families and family members. I can't understand how that could be not suffering for those people. So let's just comment.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you so much for that thought. I see Christy. You're muted.
Thank you, everybody. This has just been a tremendous gathering of so many wonderful people. It's great to have this. So thank you for everybody for putting it together. You know, when Kathy, when you were saying, once you know, you can't unknow, you can't unsee, you can't unthink it. And so I think for me, now, you know, I'm finding it out, but now it's like getting comfortable in that quiet, that moment to regroup and use that space, not to respond immediately, not to bite the hook, don't pick up the potato, you know, leave it, you know, let it sit out there for a few moments so that you're not doing the same thing you always did. You know, you're not dismissing the agreements, you know, or you're still going along with the agreements. I don't know, but for me, it's gotten to the point where I know I just have to sit with it and not bite the hook.
Mhm. I love it. So, beloved, we are in those final moments. I want to thank our panelists, Reverend Roxanne, Reverend Teresa, Reverend Maggie, Reverend Don, Reverend Jim. And I want to thank all of you for the willingness to take this journey, because this is a sign of courage. We are all changed forever because of this experience of one another. And I want to thank the MCCU family for creating such a broad opportunity for us to gather together in conversation and to do this in love and light. So thank you all for even popping into that divine idea and trying it. And so you all are appreciated and you're loved. And as I say every Sunday, I love you. And there's not one thing you can do about that.
Not one thing.
Not one thing. Reverend Don, I give it back to you.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. Yes, thank you, Kathy. Great job tonight. I just want to remind everybody that this, like other classes, are tithing classes, and I want to just encourage you all to tithe how you are called to your home churches in whatever manner that looks like for your churches to tithe in an electronic format, or however you do it in this pandemic format, whatever, since we're not together and we can't pass the tithe basket, to take the time when we get done to send a tithe for this class if you're spiritually fed to your home church. Next week, as Wednesday, October 20th, is Don't Make Assumptions, and Reverend Roxanne Graves from Unity on the Space Coast will be leading that discussion. And I want to make sure that you're all come back for that, put that on your calendar, because it'll be another fun and informative class. So please come back for that. So let's just close in a quick closing prayer. Just ask you to take a breath, make that 18-inch move, change your attention from your heart, from your head to your heart, to move your intention and attention into your heart space. As we say, thank you, loving presence. Thank you for your awareness, your light, and your wisdom in our lives in this moment, for this class, and throughout this lifetime. We open ourselves up to the divine guidance that is offered to us in every moment of every day, knowing that God's good is always present in our lives and just waiting, hoping, and pushing for a way to be expressed in our lives. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Good night,
Night,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Love you, Mina.
Night.
Nice job, Kathy.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Kathy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.